if everybody's here that's going to be here. So we're going to start at the end of our program and work backwards. So I'm going to do my vision statement now. So I usually do that at the end of announcements and whatever, and then we go eat. But I want to do it because it ties in with the sheetrock. So last fall I was like, hey, I don't know what the economy's doing, election coming up. We're going to probably just take whatever jobs we can get, stay busy. Well, that turned out to be true. And what I realized was that's not different. That's who we are as a company. We're going to, yes, we find roles for people, right? Framing, tile work, finish work. But ultimately, we're a construction company. And so what does construction, every house involve? Sheetrock. And so that might not be your specialty, but it's a skill that I want everybody to have at least a fundamental knowledge about. So when it's 0 degrees and somebody's taping a house, you can go help out. Which is what we're going to be doing in 2 weeks. So 409 is going to be insulated, ready for sheetrock. So I'm using that as a huge opportunity that everybody can hone their skills. So as far as when you'll be there, Ryan, Lee, they'll talk to you about who and when. But we've got a massive blank slate to practice on. So I'm giving you pre-training today. The training will be at the house doing the sheetrock. I wanted to turn it into a little skills competition. You get that room, you get that room, you get that room. Okay, ready, set, go. See who's the fastest. Hang it, tape it, texture it. But I don't know that schedules will allow for that. But we'll still have some kind of competition because I like competing. But back to sheetrock. So every house, every commercial project, everything has sheetrock. So again, we're just bringing everybody's skills up, and then we're synchronizing the K construction way. All right, does that make sense to everybody? All right. So again, I'm just going to run through the process. This is more pre-training than the actual training. So I've got a little display here. I want to run through some tools initially. I'm not going to go through any hanging techniques. That'll be when we're at the house. There are a lot of tips and tricks to hanging, making it go faster. So this is just the taping part of it. All right, so 2 different types of tape. Fiberglass, paper tape. Two different reasons for these. And again, there's a K construction way that I want to synchronize everybody on, because there's a lot of ways to do this. There's 10 different ways to do it, and none of them are necessarily wrong. But when the project manager sends you to go do something, everybody's on the same page. This is the K construction process. Okay, so fiberglass tape never gets put on without Durabond. These are the two types of mud that are not pre-mixed, Durabond and then Easy Sand. Durabond is, think concrete. It dries and you don't sand it, you don't scrape it, it's there. It's like concrete. So because it's so strong, it works well with the fiberglass mesh. If you just use regular blue mud over this, it'll crack. The advantage to this is it lays flatter and it's a lot quicker to get your next coat on. So typically a remodel application is where we're going to be using this. You can use it in a new construction, and I'll show you there's a little bit more labor to it if you're doing a whole house. If you're doing a whole house, you're going to be putting your paper tape on with a banjo, and so you just put paper on all the seams because you're just putting it on faster. So again, this is a little more remodel where we're going to use this. There are 5 stages of sheetrock, 5 levels. That's why the tools are named level 5, because 5 is the best. So we're going to run through those really quick. So the first level is the tape, whether it's fiberglass or paper, and that's typically called a fire tape. So it's now you mud all your screw holes 1 coat and you put your tape on, and now it's fire rated. The second level is your first coat on your joints. Your third level would be a second coat on your joints. Now, depending on how heavy a texture you're putting on, you can stop there. On a third, level 3, sand it, texture it. A level 4 is a third coat that's feathered out a lot further to hide a lot more. That's going to typically be when you're just doing a very light texture. A level 5 is if you're doing absolutely no texture and it's flat, and that's actually a skim coat. So you would tape all your seams level 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then level 5 would be like a paint roller where you're rolling paint on the or mud on the entire wall, and then you're hitting it with a skimming blade. So the entire wall would have a very thin coat of mud, and you're skimming the entire wall. That's a perfect finish. You can't find seams or flaws or anything when you do that. That's very labor intensive. Typically, we don't do that, and by typically, I mean we've never done that. But in an instance where somebody wants a perfectly flat, no texture, that's how you get it looking perfect. Okay, so level 1, your tape. And this has an adhesive, so you can put it on, and then you would put your Durabond over it. Here, I'll have some audience participation. Oh, I found it. All right, so fiberglass to go on, all your flats, so it'd be your butt joints or your factory joints, and then coated Durabond. Now, the reason I say that it speeds it up is because if you get a Durabond 45, that's going to be fully cured within 45 minutes. You can get a Durabond 20, and they lie. It's not 20, it's 10. You're going to be lucky to get it all out of your pan before it's set up. But you can then hit the next coat within minutes. So in a remodel, you're doing a bathroom, you're doing a one room, you can get your fiberglass on, you get your Durabond on, and start hitting your next coat by the time you get around the room. So that's what I mean by getting it sped up. And it's not 45 either. It's usually, you figure it's about half of what they say it is when it's cured out. It's not fully cured out, but it's not workable anymore. So you pretty much, if you get to the point where you haven't spread it all out, you got to scrape it out of your pan, just throw it away and start over. Okay, the easy sand is less durable version of the Durabond. It's not all the way to taping mud, but it's a little tighter than taping mud, but it's not like concrete like the Durabond is. So the easy sand is going to be anything we pre-fill. If you have any gaps, now when I hung this, I should have hung it with some gaps so you know what I'm talking about. But imagine you have a 1/4 inch gap here. You're going to want to fill that before you put your tape on. Same thing here. And so that's just a pre-fill. That's what we use that for. All right, I'm going to set some paper tape here. So any paper is going to get set with the all-purpose or the green mud. That's got a little more glue in it, so it's going to be stickier. That's going to hold that tape on a lot better. Now, when you're taping by hand, air pockets are your biggest enemy because if you don't get everything completely covered. So I'm gonna use this, and if you guys can't see, move on over here. We got our fiberglass. So to set our paper, put a coat on, set your paper into it, and then you set the paper with your knife. You tape it, you press it in. That's going to take a little longer to dry before you can hit your second coat versus your Durabond. But when you're rolling it out of a banjo, you're just going around, you're putting it on, and so you're usually going to have a bigger job. You're going to have more time by the time you're done to when you start hitting your second coat. When you're running it through a banjo, you're going to want to loosen it just a little bit. So green mud, 5-gallon pail, 4-gallon pail, a little bit of water, mix it up so it runs through a little bit easier. And then on the corners, same idea. When you're setting it by hand, And again, on a small room, like a bathroom, a small room, you just can do everything by hand. I'll get into the boxes a little bit later, but that's more of a bigger job. There's a lot more work. You got to get the pump out to fill them. You got to clean them when you're done. So if we're talking a small room, now setting your inside corner, mud each side, and then crease your tape, and you get really good at holding the pan between your legs because you're usually on the top of the ladder. I mean the second to the top rung of the ladder. That's right, top of the step ladder. All right, so then to set the tape, you're going to press each side. Now the tape's set, ready for the second coat. Okay, any questions so far on what I've covered? All right, now everybody come over here real quick. I want to show you real up close. This is what I mean by bubbles. So you see how the tape isn't fully pressed in on top there? That, if you put another coat over that, that's going to show up later. So that's why when you're setting paper by hand, you got to make sure you're pressing it in there and see how there's mud squeezing out. Corners are also very difficult. You see here, that's not fully set. That's going to show up later. I've not found these to be super effective, the corner trowel, on setting the paper. When you go to put your first coat on or your second coat on, these work great, but I've not really had much success with setting these. For me, it's been one side and then the other. And again, right there, making sure that mud's flowing out. Those bubbles are going to be, that's a callback. I'm going to have to go back and fix those. And they're not super hard to fix, but it's something we shouldn't have to fix. Okay. Now, on the, when you come to a ceiling like this, you're going to set your tape, and then the tape being your first coat, when you go to your second coat, then you can switch over to the corner trowel. Now corners are always hard to set because what happens when you want to start setting the tape and you pull on it and the tape comes with you. So what's the trick? Don't cuss too loudly. I don't have one. You just got to work it in there. You'll have to watch it twice now. Okay. Yeah. Don't look at the framing, Brian. We're doing sheetrock training here. Yep. All right. So now, paper's in there, mud's in there. That's an awfully dirty corner. That's gonna drive you wild once it dries. So make sure everything is cleaned out now. And then when you go to finish your corners, doing it by hand, we're just gonna pretend this tape is all the way up there. Putting your second coat, you're gonna switch over to the blue mud. So for the sake of the demonstration, pretend this is blue mud. Blue mud's a lot more workable than the green mud, but if you hit mud both sides, and then this is where this comes in. Second coat. Now you can get pretty good finish on it. Now what I've found, one coat in the corners is all you need. So you set your tape, you hit one coat with this, and you're done. Because you don't want a lot of mud built up in the corner. That is right there. That's how you want it looking. Because a buildup in the corner, all it's going to do is crack. And then we're going to be coming back with caulk, trying to fix it, trying to match texture later.
So you want to see the tape then?
Yep.
Because right there you see the tape.
Yep. So the mud is filled, the tiny little ridge from the paper to the sheetrock, and then it's filled any imperfections in the corner. But that's it. So then when you're sanding that out, hey guys, when you're sanding that out, you can't spend time in there sanding. You're just going to burn through to that paper. It's going to be fuzzy. It's going to look bad. So this corner right here, see I've got a ridge of mud there. Clean that off. Just pressing one corner into the wall to clean that off. And that's almost no sanding at all. Very minimal. I mean, you just maybe by hand once, and that's it. And that.
Ready for texture right there.
Yep. Yep.
Like
Yes.
bubbling.
Yeah.
What do you do with that?
We just covered that.
Okay, never mind.
Yep. So you have to watch the. You'll have.
Another question.
Yes.
With the tape in the corner, would you run the vertical one? Do you put that one on first? Do you go all the way up and then overlap it, or do you do the top ones first and then just?
It doesn't really matter which order you put these in. Yes, this one should be up overlapping.
So they do overlap.
Yep. But here's a trick. If you're doing a room, you want to get as much mud on and drying as possible. So you're gonna set your mud here. Then you're gonna stay out of the corner maybe 1.5 inches or so. Run this line out. Same thing here. Stay out of the corner. Run this line out. Now your corners are done. You let them dry, and then you come back with your 6-inch and you just infill your corner just to clean that up. But that's a lot less. It's work you do later after everything else is dry, because the goal is to get the most mud on, dry it. So, yep. So just staying out of the corner with this one. All right. So then, tape set, corners done. That second coat of mud, it's done. Now these, that's done. Whether you're going to a level 3 or a level 4, they're done. If you're going to a level 5, then obviously you're skim coating all the way into the corner. Okay, so now we're going to take the easy.
We don't do level 5.
You're right. Now that you know about it, he's going to start selling it. No, but there are times we've skim coated walls to try to blend in, or a lot of times if you have like this, see there's a ridge here. And so you skim the whole wall to try to get it out, leveled out with that. Because by the time you feather it out that far, you might as well just put mud on the whole wall. So there are times, so yes, technically not a level 5, but there are times where you're going to skim something. 4.5. There you go. That'll be the exclusive to K Construction. All right, so factory seams. So we've got Durabond. Again, for the sake of time, imagine this being Durabond. We've got our Durabond on. That's level 1, or our paper set. Level 1. Second level, grabbing your wider trowel, and I'm gonna open up the blue mud here. And here's a little trick with when you're thinning the mud out, you don't want to add too much water. This product works really well to increasing the workability. It's called the Drywall's Friend No Pock. It's Dawn dish soap, yeah. They just repackage dish soap and charge more for it. So a little bit of soap, a little bit of water, and that'll smooth out the mud. All right, so second coat, you're going to widen out quite a bit. You want to get out about 8 to 10 inches. So like that. That's your second coat. Okay. Once that dries, third coat, we're going to widen out even more. And that's going to be the finished trowel. And if you guys can see, there's a small concave to the trowel. So that's going to leave you a nice little crown over your mud. And you can see there I didn't have enough mud on the middle, so we didn't grab it, so then you just got to add more. But that'll be your finished coat. So that for a factory joint is the third. And that's 99% of the time, that's where we're going to finish, where we're going to stop on a level 3. If we're going to a level 4, this seam, you would widen it out even more yet. So you'd be from about here to there, and then you would be using this skimming blade to drag that mud. Yeah, so you're going to be out about that far on a factory joint. Again, if we're texturing, that's not a level we go to. This would be where we'd stop. Okay, on the butt seams. Again, using your imagination, I'm gonna have to build this up. You can see this is where we get into some remodel work. You're trying to match sheetrock into plaster. Maybe you got to fur the wall out. Maybe you got to go to a 5/8, but you still got a ridge there. We're going to pre-fill that ridge with the easy sand, like that, and you're trying to build it out enough so you can get your paper on.
You don't need to cut it back with a knife?
It's not going to help you. So,
Is it easy to on?
yeah, it's either one, but easy sand's going to be a lot quicker to get on and easier to work with. All we're doing is building that out to now get our tape on it. So now, that's the pre-fill. So now we can add, you guys vote. What are we doing on it? Huh? Paper. Mesh? Okay, mesh. Oh, thank you. I heard that snap. So, one more.
What's the advantage of mesh?
So now, since you guys selected mesh, we're gonna switch that to Durbond really quick. So now, just in your imagination, change. That's Durbond. So you can pre-fill, and Kyle knew where I was going with this. Now we can pre-fill and get our tape set all in one coat, because yes, remodel. You don't want to be sitting around waiting for mud to dry. There's usually not anything else to do, unless we're remodeling like 3 bathrooms or something. All right, so small coat of that. Now you're going to let that dry, set up. From this point forward, it's building that out as far as possible. So if this was a real life scenario here, we had some existing here, we added in here, we're going to be building all the way back to the corner. So the next coat, we're filling this whole thing in. We're using the 10-inch or maybe even a 12, filling this in, let that set up, and then we're going to build it out all the way out to here on the corner.
So how big of a span do you not do that? How far out does it go? So your corner's farther away.
As far as it takes to get it to look good.
Okay.
The best way to tell if it's going to look good is to take a straight edge, and if this is a real life scenario, this will fit here. Otherwise, grab a level. But take a straight edge and put it on there, and you can see right away where your voids are. And this is the number one rule of sheetrock. If it's built out, the mud, it's harder to see than if it's indented. So a concave versus a convex. Went to school, okay. Convex. So anything that dips in is going to be very visible. Anything that's built out is less visible, and then obviously perfectly flat is what we're going for. So if this was a real life scenario, I would hit my pre-fill, my tape. I would then just load this whole wall up with mud, grab my skimming blade, because now I'm as close to perfectly flat as I can get. As far as building it out, yeah, get a straight edge, get a 4-foot, get a 6-foot level, throw it on there, and just after the coat's dry, put it back on. You're going to see what you need to fill. Again, convex being the most visible. So if you're setting this on here and you're seeing gaps, we're going to fill those in. Okay, let's do corner bead really quick. Any questions with this? So we've got set the tape, one coat, corners are done. Set the tape, you got 2 coats, that's done. And then this would be 3 coats. If this was a normal butt seam with no variation in the thickness here, you're going to set your tape. And then this is kind of new to me, to K construction. It's a way I found that works way better on butt seams. So taking your finish, you put a stripe of mud here, and you put a stripe of mud here. You let that dry. Then you go back, and you either trowel apply or you can roll it on with a paint roller, but you use the skimming blade over your butt seam, going from center to center of your 2 stripes of mud, and that's it. You're done. So it saves an entire coat of mud, because previously you'd build it out with this. You'd go 1, 2, 3, and then you'd go center to center, and then you go center to center to center. So you had 3 coats. This saves a step. So especially on a remodel where any amount of minutes you can save is ideal. So corner bead. Let's do corner bead really quick, and then we'll look at these tools. So there's 2 types of corner bead. The corner bead people in the industry hate, and the type they love. So most professionals do not like a paper set corner. I've used them. I've actually had success with them. I put them in my house to see how they hold up, and turns out they dent just like the regular ones when kids run stuff into them. So this I don't have a preference on. I would say we stick with the all metal. You do have to fasten it mechanically. 1/4-inch crown stapler. I put it here somewhere. There we go. I'd say this is a less chance of falling off. You get an air bubble behind that, and you're going to have some problems. So this just goes on with 1/4-inch crown. The key to any corner bead is, as you're setting it, you've got to leave enough room for your mud. So I would say 1/8 to 3/16 is where you want, right on the edge of the metal. So if you take your trowel and you go from here to nothing with a 10-inch, make sure you've got about 1/8 to 3/16 in there. If you have less than that, see that? My trowel is hitting the edge before it's getting to the corner. You're going to see that. There's no amount of feathering that can cover that. If you go too far this way, which sometimes you have to do in a remodel, you just got to add another coat to building up your mud. So not an issue. It just adds one more step because you don't want to put your mud on too thick. Hey, this says the finished guy. Correct. So keep him in mind. Keep the finished guy in mind. Sometimes when you've got, let's say, new and existing, and you're trying to match up, sometimes you have to. So too far out is better than too far in, but you're shooting for perfect. And then the tricky part, making sure you've got that on both sides at the same time. And if your hanger does, which hopefully is you, doesn't do you any favors and he shorts you here, it's even worse because now your beads want to slip in there. So if that's the case, hit it with pre-fill. That's gonna have to set up before you can put your corner bead on. And then with the paper, just as if it were paper tape, use your green mud, but make sure you're filling everything. Any bubbles on here are going to affect that corner, but it's just simply set. Now I do like these because you can adjust them for a while. Unlike once you staple that, you got to tear the whole thing off if you got it wrong. So check your Reveal, see, I got to come out a little bit so we can adjust it. There.
Just seems like you're asking for trouble though.
It's, yeah.
You do both at 409 just to get practice.
Well, I've done it at my house. I'm fairly happy with it. Like I said, fairly meaning when kids run into it, doesn't matter what you put on.
But you don't need the stapler for that.
Nope. It's just that mud set. And then the advantage,
It's faster because you don't need a stapler for it.
What's the odds?
one second. So faster is this because you can set it, hit your first coat right away. With the metal, you've got to put your first coat, let's say Easy Sand or Durabond, then you hit your first coat. So this is almost a second coat right away. So it is one less coat.
That, where was I going with that? Oh, with the paper, how easy is it to stay consistent up the corner?
It's got a metal bead in it. Yeah. So yeah, they stay very true. Yep. Yep. But again, if you don't get the bond right here, you're gonna see that later. Just like a bubble in the regular tape. You're gonna have to deal with that later.
Which you don't deal with the stapled ones.
Right. They don't move.
You know you're not going to deal with that when they're stapled
Yep.
on.
So as far as the K construction way, because that's what I'm trying to teach, we're sticking with these. But I did want to show you those.
Question. Can you reverse it and use it in a ceiling to wall corner?
No.
No.
No. Okay, any other questions with this? This is very quick overview. Obviously not everything is covered, but that's what we're going to be doing at 409.
So one thing, I don't know if you would say it's a waste or not with once you put this coat on, but to take some of this edge, sometimes I'll just pound this down, like beat this corner in, and then it kind of, I don't know, I feel like it's not as hard to make it look good when it's feathered. You don't have to feather as drastically.
Yeah.
If you kind of held it initially right here, but I don't know.
It depends on what this is, but you're right. But you still got to feather it out. So it just depends on what you're trying to match up.
Is that for every butt seam or just when there's like a difference in?
No, just when there's a difference. Yeah.
So otherwise you treat a cut seam even the same way as a butt seam.
Nope. So if this was the same plane, I've got a 5/8 here and I got a 1/2 inch here. Let's just say they're both 1/2 inch. You have your tape, your two stripes, and then your skimming blade. Versus this, which is your tape, your 10 inch, and then your 12 inch finish or 14 inch finish. This one. So it's slightly different because you have to get these out wider. These end up being, so this is a 14 inch, but by the time you drag your mud, you're in a little bit. So these end up being about 10 inches wide. These are usually about 24 inches wide. So you've got your...
The factory seam is inset.
Yes.
So butt seams are 12-inch finish.
24 inch. So on a butt seam, you've got two passes,
Factory finishes.
and then this goes center of your pass to center of your pass.
And then factory finish is a 12-inch finish.
Right. A 14-inch blade that brings it down to about that. Well, yep. Okay, really quick. Everybody come over here. So again, on a small remodel, hand tools, just less to get out, less to clean up. Big remodel, big house, whatever we're doing, large project, is where the level 5 tools come in. So I messed myself up here. We got corresponding tools. So this here, thank you. This is the level 5 version of this hand tool. So set your tape. Then you've got this sets the paper in the corner. So it's just a roller, and you thread a handle onto it, and this sets the tape into the corner. So you put it in there, that sets it, versus setting it by hand. This is your one and only pass in the corner. This applies the mud in the corner, cleans it. One pass, you're done. Same as this. That's better at it than you are. So if we're doing a lot, if there's a lot of work, it's worth getting out. You hit it, you're done. This is a 10-inch box. That's same as this. That'll put your first coat on your factory seams. And then the 12-inch box, same as the 14-inch finish. That'll put your last coat. So when you're doing butt seams, if you're using this, same thing. One pass, and then once that dries, then your skimming blade. So the change over the years, the biggest change over the years is the invent of that. I've started using it more and more and more, and that is, I probably use it 50% of the time now. This tool right here. So it's, I don't know what they made it out of. It's straight, but it also conforms, and it saves a step. It saves an entire step on the whole project. So if you figure one less pass, one less drying cycle, that could save you, depending on the size of the job, it could save you a day, it could save you more. So I think I need to invest in a few more of these. They make other sizes, but that's a tool I want everybody to get familiar with, how that works. So, any other questions? Very brief overview. Like I said, it's just kind of pre-training. 409 is going to be the reps. Everybody's going to get some reps.
As a project manager, if I'm like sending materials to like a bathroom or something like that, easy sand, green mud, blue mud,
Durbond.
or Durabond.
Well, I would do both, depending on. Okay, let's see if this makes sense. Durabond can do what Easy Sand does, but Easy Sand can't do what Durabond does. So if you're doing,
any application where I would use is there any application where I would use Easy Sand that I can't use Durabond?
no,
So
Durabond can do everything Easy Sand does. Easy Sand mixes easier and applies easier.
Finishes easier.
It finishes easier.
but I'm not finishing either
Right.
of them.
Right. So
Better
it's
use both of them.
so if you're pre-filling, it's back to that. If you're pre-filling and setting your fiberglass at the same time, you just do Durabond. If you're doing paper everywhere, you got to go pre-fill some gaps. Then you hit Easy Sand. It's a lot quicker and faster, easier to work with, and then your paper goes over it. So in a remodel, it's pretty much a Durabond. I would say Easy Sand would be like a new construction type of product.
So Durabond, green mud, blue mud.
Yep. Green mud to set your paper, blue mud to finish everything else. So a lot of blue mud, especially if you're using the skimming blade. You're putting a lot of mud on. One other thing with that quick, we'll get into that at 409.
Let's say like a single room. Bag of Durabond.
Yep.
1 bucket of green.
Yep.
2 buckets of blue.
However much blue you need. That's hard to say because, again, with the blue, we're going to use that on our texture, depending on what kind of texture you're doing. So, but you're on the right track.
But that'd be a good starting ratio.
You're talking general, I'm talking specific. So,
We
yeah.
can always return a bucket of blue if you don't use it.
Yeah.
But ratio-wise,
Yep.
it's going to be like a 1, 1, and a 3.
3, yeah. Yep.
Okay.
With the green,
Actually, probably like 6 blue to 1 green.
with the green, you can pretty much use it for everything the blue does. It's just not as
Yes.
convenient, right?
Yep. It has more glue, so it's actually going to be more durable. So if you start to use it on like your finish coat, it's actually going to hold up better. It's just a workability thing. So,
It dries
But we
quicker.
can't use the
not
blue
necessarily.
for everything.
Right. So let's do this. These two can do everything these two do, but these two can't do everything they can do. So if you have green out, you thin it down a little bit, you set your paper. A lot of times, all right, you want to, here's a secret. We'll turn the camera off. Here's a secret. If I'm doing a very small job, I'm setting my paper and hitting the first coat at the same time
With green.
with green. I'm there, I got the pan, I got the trowel in my pocket, and I'm done. I don't have to come back to it. So,
So you're only touching the blue then at that point for texture.
yeah, so whatever my butt seams are, joints, and
sanding, then
Right.
it's not really an issue.
Right, because corners you're not sanding a lot. You don't want to sand. So now I got the green on there. I'm barely hitting it with a sander anyway, so speeds it up. Saves a step because now I'm on that ladder once, not twice.
So with the corner, with the paper being exposed, the primer's gonna cover it and the paint's not gonna soak into
It's
it.
technically all covered with mud. It's just so thin you can't see it. That's why I said if you over sand it, you're going to expose the paper.
Right.
Paper gets fuzzy. So very light sanding.
Depending on the size of the, so like a lot of times I'm just doing bathrooms, and if I'm doing sheetrock, I could probably get away with that size of a green bucket.
Yeah.
Because
Set your tape.
I'll be honest, I don't typically use green mud because I didn't know that I was supposed to.
Right. Hence we're
that
doing
was
this.
needed.
Yeah. Hence we're
I'm
doing this.
like, well,
Yep.
okay, I can use blue.
Yep.
And it's a waste to use a whole 5-gallon bucket of green mud when I can.
Yep.
So, if all I'm using it for is putting tape on the wall.
Yep.
Then that smaller bucket's probably all I need.
Yep.
So.
Okay, so that's a good point. So that's why we're doing this, to get everybody on the same page. Here's how I want it done. So last thing, I'm eating away into Peter's time. Last thing, like you said, we don't bring mud back. If it's open, it gets thrown away at the end of the job. If it crusts over or it'll start to mold, we're throwing it away anyway. So we're buying new mud for every job. At the end of the day or the pass, make sure you get a roll of the shop towels. Take your knife, knock the mud down, and then take a blue towel, get it wet, and actually clean the rim. There is nothing worse than chunks in your mud. No, there's one thing worse, but we're not going to talk about that one. The second worst thing in life is the chunks in your mud, because you have to keep hitting no knife, smooth. Just clean the top off, and then when we're done with it. So yeah, if you only need that much, just get that much because we're not bringing it back here. So okay, reps. That's what we're looking at. 409. This was just a little run through. I'm looking forward to working with everybody at 409 just to get some reps, even if it's 1 hour, if it's all week, whatever. Get everybody on the same page. All right.
How soon are you bringing
Back to you. A couple weeks. Oh yeah. I won't point it at you either.